By the third year of my temporary amnesia, I accidentally heard the one conversation that finally explained everything. It happened on a night my husband Liam Stone thought I was asleep. I was standing at the top of the stairs barefoot, one hand on the railing when his voice drifted up from the living room, lazy, amused, floating through the air like smoke. A man laughed and said, "Liam, your wife blanks out every few months. And every time you have us take turns pretending to be you, living with her like we're her husband. Aren't you scared one day she'll get confused and it'll turn into something real?" Liam swirled whatever was in his glass and laughed like it was the funniest thing in the world. "Scared of what?" "My wife's not exactly passionate. If you don't push it, she won't want anything. I'm warning you now. Act like me if you want. Hold her hand, hug her, whatever. But don't sleep with her. I'm having my fun right now, but when I'm done, I'm going back to being a good husband." My stomach dropped so hard I felt it in my knees. For 3 years, every time I lost my memory, the man holding my hand, wrapping an arm around me, sleeping in my bed, wasn't Liam. 3 years, 9 blackouts. 9 different men had played the role of my husband. And the cruelest part, none of them knew I'd recovered 2 years ago. They thought I was still the clueless wife that could swap out like a shift schedule. They thought I'd never notice. They were wrong. The 9th husband came home on a rainy evening when the city lights looked smeared behind the windows. I sat on the couch staring at nothing, letting my face go blank the way they expected. The front door clicked open. A man's voice, smooth, careful, called out, "Alara, I'm home." I turned slowly. He stood in the doorway, tall, handsome, dressed like he'd stepped out of a magazine, pressed shirt watch that probably cost more than my car. I frowned, letting confusion spread across my face like a watercolor stain. "Who are you?" He froze for half a second. Just half, but I caught it. Then he recovered fast, forcing a light laugh. "What?" I blinked at him like my mind couldn't connect dots. "Are you my husband?" I thought my husband's name was Liam. His eyes flickered. "No," he said quickly. I'm Liam's friend. Don't worry." "Okay, I'll call him right now." He pulled out his phone and hurried to the balcony like he couldn't get away from me fast enough. I slipped behind the curtain and listened. "Liam," he said under his breath. Era lost her memory again. "Whose turn is it? Come take over." Voices spilled out on speaker. Men complaining like this was an annoying chore. "Bro, she's clingy 24/7. We can't keep babysitting." "Yeah, she's great, but she's so controlling. What kind of guy doesn't want a little freedom? Why don't you just come back yourself?" Then Liam's voice came through. Bored and casual. "No, I'm not done having fun. Who's going to cover for me? Come on, we're friends. Don't leave me hanging." A pause. Then a new voice cut in low, calm, colder than the rest. "I'll go." The 9th husband exhaled like he'd been saved. I recognized that voice immediately. Aiden Walker, Liam's closest friend, the man everyone talked about in their circle like he was untouchable, too disciplined, too controlled, the kind of guy who never got caught wanting anything. Rumors said he'd never had a serious relationship. 30 years old and still a mystery. When Liam first floated the idea of using friends to cover for him, Aiden had been the first to shut it down. So why was he volunteering now? Half an hour later, the lock turned. The door opened. Aiden stepped inside, framed by the hallway light, so his shadow stretched across the floor. "Air," he said, voice steady. "I'm home." I stood and studied him like I was trying to remember a face from a dream. He was even more striking up close. Sharp jaw, dark eyes, the kind of calm that made you feel like you were the one losing control. I tilted my head. "You're my husband." Aiden cleared his throat and nodded once. "Yeah, Liam. I'm sorry. Work ran late." Right then, his phone rang. He lifted a hand in apology and walked back out to the balcony. And of course, like the universe wanted me to hear every rotten detail, I caught Liam's voice through the glass. "Oh, right," Liam said. "Aiden, remember, hold her hand. Hug her if you need to, but don't sleep with her. No matter what, she's still my wife." Aiden's answer came quiet. "Got it." For 3 years, none of them had crossed the line. There were no photos of us in the house, no spare toothbrushes, no IDs, no receipts that could leave traces. I had no parents, no close family, and with my condition, they assumed I had no one who could help me connect the dots. They thought they built the perfect trap. And for 2 years, I let them believe it. I played the part of the broken wife because sometimes pretending you don't know the truth is the only way to control what happens next. But this time, I wanted to play a different game. I walked up to Aiden as soon as he came back inside. I wrapped my arms around his waist like I've done it 1,000 times. Even if I don't remember, I whispered, "You feel familiar. You have to be my husband." Then I squeezed tighter just enough to make him tense and let my hands slide to his stomach like I was confirming he was real. Aiden stiffened. His hands came up fast to gently pull me back like he didn't trust himself. "What are you doing?" His voice came out rougher than before. I blinked up at him, sweet and innocent. "I lost my memory. Are you saying you don't like me anymore?" His eyes darted away. "No," he said quietly. "That's not what I'm saying." "So, you do like me?" I smiled like it was the most obvious thing in the world, like he was the one being silly. My fingers went to the buttons of his shirt, slow and deliberate. "It's cold," I murmured. "We be warmer in bed." Aiden's throat moved as he swallowed. He stared at me like I'd stepped too close to the edge of something he'd been guarding his whole life. Then after a long beat, he said, "Okay." That night, we shared the bed. But in the darkness, we lay still, two people listening to their own breathing like it might give away secrets. The next morning, Aiden told me he wanted to take me out. "To reintroduce you to friends," he said, "so you feel supported?" A bar, a private room. Soft music, dimmed lights. The second we stepped inside, my eyes found Liam. He was kissing her like he hadn't kissed me in years. Aiden cleared his throat once, sharp and controlled. Liam froze. Then he slowly stepped back, smoothing his expression like he could reset reality with a smile. "Aiden," he said, "didn't expect you." Aiden slid an arm around my shoulders and kept his voice polite. "Hey," he said. "I'm Aiden Walker, Liam's childhood friend." He reached out his hand like a gentleman. "And this is my girlfriend," he added, gesturing to the woman beside Liam. "Chloe Davis." I stared at her. Of course, I knew who she was. Chloe was Liam's first love, the one who got away, the one he always claimed was ancient history. Now I understood why he'd stayed away for 3 years. It wasn't work. It wasn't stress. It was her. Around the room were the same men who had taken turns playing husband in my home. They looked relaxed and amused, like this was all just a funny story they'd tell later. "Ilara," one of them said with a grin. "You blinked out again." Another laughed. "Liam's such a good guy. No matter how many times you forget, he never abandons you." "Seriously," someone added. "You should appreciate him." I smiled slow and sharp and said nothing. Aiden guided me to the couch. I picked up a piece of fruit from the tray and fed it to him like I was showing everyone exactly who I belonged to today. "Eat," I whispered. "You're working so hard for me." In the dim light, I saw Liam's eyes flick toward us. So I leaned toward Aiden's ear and just loud enough to carry teased, "You kept me up all night." "I'm still sore." Aiden's whole body went rigid. His hand tightened around mine under the table, warning and pleading at the same time. "Sweetheart," he murmured. "Chloe, stop." Liam's glass creaked in his grip. Chloe watched me like she wanted to tear my face off, but she kept her smile. "Ilara," she said, dripping sweetness. "You're impressive. The famous untouchable guy finally falls, and he falls for you." The men laughed nervously, scrambling to cover. "Huh? Well, that just shows how deep Liam and Ilara's love is." "Right. Even memory loss can't stop their chemistry." I caught Liam taking a slow sip, his face dark and tight, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Satisfaction. I excused myself to the restroom. When I came out, Chloe was waiting. We passed shoulder to shoulder. Then splash. Red wine poured down the front of my shirt like a deliberate stain. Chloe lifted her brows. "Oops." My hand slipped. I looked at her for a beat. Then I raised my hand and slapped her hard enough to leave a mark. Not hard enough to become something uglier. I kept my voice calm. "Oops," I said. Mine slipped too. A furious voice exploded behind me. Lara, what the hell are you doing? Liam stormed toward us. Chloe instantly folded into his arms, crying like an actress. Baby, she sobbed. I didn't mean it. I just spilled wine and she attacked me. I feel dizzy. Liam's face went cold. Apologize, he snapped at me. I laughed, short, sharp. Who are you to order me around? His eyes narrowed like he couldn't believe I disobeyed. What happened to you? Since you lost your memory, you've become arrogant. What I become, I said, has nothing to do with you. I turned to walk away. And that's when Liam did what finally killed the last soft thing inside me. He stepped in and kicked the back of my knee. Not enough to break it, enough to drop me. I hit the floor with a startled gasp, pain shooting up my leg. Don't think you can do whatever you want just because you're sick, he said, voice hard. Apologize. On the cold tile, looking up at him, I felt something almost quiet. Not heartbreak, not even anger, just the hollow realization that the man I'd loved for 10 years, since college, since cheap ramen nights and shared dreams, was gone. Or maybe he had never existed at all. Then Aiden's voice cut through the air like a blade. Don't touch her. I pushed myself up through the pain, stood, and slapped Liam across the face. Then I turned and walked straight into Aiden's arms like it was the safest place in the world. Babe, I said, clinging to him. Your friend is so rude. He hurt me. Aiden's expression darkened. His gaze locked on Liam, warning and dangerous. Don't bully, he said. Chloe sneered from Liam's side, bitterness spilling out. What's the big deal? She's been passed around and you're just picking up leftovers. Shut up. Liam and Aiden said it at the same time. Liam's voice was icy. Chloe, watch your mouth. Aiden's eyes were colder. Say that about her again and you'll regret it. Then Aiden took my hand and walked me out. Back home, the moment the door closed behind us, I wrapped my arms around Aiden's waist again like I couldn't get enough of him. You were amazing, I whispered. I loved it. His ears turned faintly red. Good, he said, like he was trying to sound calm. I reached for his belt and teased. It's cold. Let's warm up, Lara. He warned, voice strained. Don't play with me. I pushed him gently onto the couch. He resisted for 2 seconds. Then something in him snapped, controls sliding off like a mask. He pulled me close and the world narrowed into breath and heat and everything we didn't say. Later, with my head on his shoulder, half asleep, I heard him whisper almost to himself. Era, did you really lose your memory? I didn't answer because whether it was true or not wasn't the point anymore. The next day, Aiden took me to the hospital for follow-up scans. And in the lobby, like some cruel joke, we ran straight into Liam and Chloe. Chloe touched her stomach with a smug smile. I'm pregnant. Routine checkup. Aiden's face didn't change. We're here for Era. Liam stared at our hands, fingers intertwined. Then his eyes slid up to my neck. Marks. I hadn't bothered to hide. What happened? His voice cracked, sharp with disbelief. Your neck. I glanced at Aiden shyly and said, You'd have to ask my husband. Liam's face twisted. I left for my CT scan, letting the two men face each other without me. When I came back with my results, I walked up like I was holding a trophy. Good news, I said brightly. The doctor said my neural pathways have fully recovered. No more blackouts. Liam went rigid like the floor dropped out from under him. That's impossible. Aiden, on the other hand, looked genuinely happy. His eyes brightened in a way I hadn't seen before. Really? He said, voice warm. That's incredible. Let's go home and celebrate. I slipped my arm through his. Liam grabbed my wrist. Wait. I yanked my arm back, disgust curling in my stomach. Mr. Stone, I said loudly, even if you're my husband's friend, grabbing me like that is inappropriate. His hand fell as if I'd burned him. I didn't look back. That night, Aiden couldn't hold himself together. He kissed me like he'd been starving, like he'd waited years and finally ran out of reasons to wait. In the dark, his voice shook. Don't leave me, he whispered. Not ever, I answered soft and steady. Okay. And something in him broke open. But just as the moment turned too intense, the bedroom light snapped on. Liam stood in the doorway, eyes bloodshot, hands clenched, looking like a man who'd finally realized the cost of what he'd done. "You," he choked out. "You traitor." He lunged at Aiden. Aiden stumbled back, a sharp hit to his mouth. He wiped the corner of his lip, his voice cold as steel. "You pushed her into this," he said. "The second you started lying to her, you should have known this day would come." Liam swung again. I grabbed a robe, rushed between them, and shouted, "Stop." Then I turned to Liam, face hard. "What are you doing?" "Aiden is my husband. What gives you the right to barge in and attack him?" Liam stared at me like I'd stabbed him. He said, shaking. "I'm your husband. I'm Liam Stone." I laughed bitterly. "Are you drunk?" "Saying nonsense." He fumbled in his pocket and pulled out his ID, hands trembling. "Look, Liam Stone, this is me. I'm your legal husband." I tilted my head. "Then why did you let other men pretend to be you? Why did you hide? And what about Chloe? She's pregnant." Liam's mouth opened, but nothing came out. I stepped closer to Aiden, gripping his arm. "I don't care who you are," I said to Liam. "In my life, in my memory, this man is my husband. Leave." Liam reached for me again, frantic, desperate. Aiden shoved him back hard enough to send him stumbling. "You don't see how much he hates you?" Aiden said, "Get out." Liam's eyes flashed with anger. He tried to swing again, then suddenly doubled over, clutching his stomach, face straining white. I didn't care. I shoved him out the door and locked it. The next morning, Liam came back, dragging a suitcase behind him like he still belonged here. "What are you doing?" I demanded. He marched inside. "This is my house. I'm coming home." Aiden walked out of the kitchen with breakfast, took one look at Liam, and his expression turned dark. Liam pointed at him. "Get out." Aiden didn't argue. He calmly sat down the plate, untied his apron, and turned to me. He said quietly. "Come with me." I smiled and nodded. "Okay." Liam grabbed my hand. "You can't go with him. We've been together since we were kids. 10 years. I was there for you." I ripped my hand away. "I don't want to hear it." I said I lost my memory. "Remember? Everyone says Aiden is my husband, so that's who I accept." Liam's jaw clenched. "When you remember everything, you'll regret this." I smiled like he was a stranger. "I don't think so. The moment you betrayed this marriage, I stopped hoping for you." I walked out with Aiden and never looked back. Liam stood frozen in the living room, staring at our backs like he'd been left in an empty world. Then his eyes landed on something on the table. A framed photo. Aiden and me, close, intimate, my cheek against his chest, my eyes half looted with warmth. Aiden had asked to take it after the first night we truly became real. He'd said softly, "If you ever lose your memory again, maybe this will help you find me." Liam grabbed the chair and slammed it to the floor, rage ripping out of him. "I was blind," he yelled into the empty room. "I was blind to call you my brother." He wandered into a bar and drank until his insides burned. And the more he drank, the clearer his regret became. Chloe found him, tried to pull the glass away. "Stop," she pleaded. "If you're hurting, talk to me." Liam stared at her as if seeing her for the first time. 3 years, all the lies, all the cruelty. He had traded his real life for a fantasy, and now the fantasy tasted like ash. Finally, he spoke. Voice hoarse, "It's over." Her face crumpled. "What?" He looked away. "And the baby." "I can't do this." She went pale. "You promised. You said you love me." "I was wrong," he said, and his voice shook, not with love, but with regret. "Era was my wife. You were the mistake." Chloe's tears turned sharp. "You can't treat me like this." Liam stood abruptly, anger flaring like a sickness. He tried to take control the way he always had by forcing the world to obey him. But even power has limits and consequences, don't care how rich you are. Not long after, Chloe's desperation turned into something darker. While Aiden was away on a work trip, Liam cornered me outside the apartment building, blocking my path. "Alara," he begged, eyes wild. "Just talk to me." I stepped around him. "I have nothing to say." He grabbed my wrist. "You remember me?" "I know you do." I stared at him. Calm as ice because I did remember. I remembered the day he found out I'd been blacking out and smiled like he'd won the lottery. I remembered how excited he was to disappear without consequences. So, his sudden suffering didn't move me. Whether you're Liam or you're nobody, I said, you don't exist in my life anymore. Don't follow me. I turned to leave. He caught my wrist again, voice frantic. Alara, Chloe is gone. I ended it. The baby, it's not happening. I'll be serious now. I'll do everything right. Please come back. I pulled free with a bitter laugh. You cheated, then try to come back and pretend you're the good guy. You don't think you deserve punishment. If you come back, he said quickly, punish me however you want. He didn't even finish the sentence. A roar of an engine cut through the street. Someone screamed my name. I turned and a sports car came out of nowhere. It hit me hard enough to throw me off my feet. The world flipping into light and noise and then nothing. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. Two men stood beside me. Aiden, eyes dark with fear. He tried to hide. And Liam, on his knees, crying, slapping his own face like pain, could rewrite the past. Alara, he sobbed. This is my fault. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He leaned in loud and frantic. Chloe has been arrested. He blurted. I'll make sure she pays. I'll hire the best lawyers. My head throbbed. His voice made it worse. I frowned and cut him off. Who are you? Liam froze. Then, impossibly, his face lit up like a man seeing a door swing open again. You don't remember, he whispered, trembling with something that looked almost like joy. He grabbed for his wallet, pulled out documents, desperate to prove reality. Look, marriage certificate. That's you. That's me. I'm your husband, Liam Stone. I stared at the paper like it belonged to someone else. Then I looked at him, and my voice came out flat. Mr. Stone, I don't know where you got that, but even if it's real, I want a divorce. His face cracked. What? Alara, why? Even without your memory, why won't you accept me? You accepted my friends. Why not me? Because even when I forgot, my body remembered what my heart already knew. That he was not safe. That he was not love. He shouted until his face turned red until nurses rushed in. And then, like his body couldn't carry his guilt anymore, he doubled over, clutching his stomach, retching violently. Aiden called for help. Liam was taken away on a gurney. When the room finally quieted, Aiden sat beside me. He was silent for a long time before he asked softly, Alara, do you remember me? I looked at him, and I shook my head. No. His fist tightened so hard his knuckles went white. His eyes turned red, but he didn't let the tears fall. Try, he whispered. Please. I'm tired, I said, turning away. I need to rest. In the days that followed, they both came, switching shifts like a twisted routine. Liam looked worse every time. Hollow-eyed, unshaven, haunted. He begged and apologized, clinging to those papers like they could resurrect the man he used to be. Aiden didn't beg. He just sat quietly, showing me the few photos we had, tiny pieces of happiness he tried to preserve. It drove me to the edge. One night, I left the hospital without telling anyone. I changed my number. I disappeared. I was done being the prize in someone else's game. I went west, far from the city to a mountain town where the roads were narrow and the air smelled like pine and dust. A place with a small school, underfunded classrooms, children with bright eyes and worn-out shoes. I became a teacher there. I helped after class, gardens, supplies, anything I could. The work was hard. The life was simple, and for the first time in years I could breathe. A month later, Aiden found me. He appeared outside my classroom after school, thinner than before, exhaustion carved between his brows. Alara, he said quietly. Are you okay here? I'm fine, I answered. He nodded, swallowing. Chloe was sentenced. 13 years. I just said okay. Then he added, voice heavier. And Liam, he has late-stage stomach cancer. He doesn't have much time. I stared at the mountains beyond the schoolyard like he told me the weather. Aiden watched me for a long moment, then spoke carefully. I checked your medical records, he said. After the accident, you didn't lose your memory. You remember everything, don't you? I looked him straight in the eye. Yes, I said. Aiden would still like he hadn't expected honesty. Then why? He whispered. Won't you acknowledge me? My voice stayed calm, but every word landed like a stone. Because you knew what Liam and his friends were doing to me, and you stayed quiet. You joined in. You helped turn my life into a joke. You don't get to stand here and act like you're innocent. His face tightened. It wasn't a joke to me, he said urgently. I didn't tell you the truth because I was scared. Scared I'd lose the only chance I ever had. He took a breath that shook. I've liked you for a long time. Since the first time Liam brought you around, I hated myself for it. I told myself I'd never cross that line. When Liam suggested the fake husband thing, I refused the first 8 times because I knew I wouldn't be able to control what I felt. His eyes were glossy. But the 9th time I was selfish. I wanted you. Even if it meant losing my best friend, he swallowed hard. I was wrong to lie, but I never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted to treat you like a toy. Please, let me make it right. I wasn't surprised because I'd always felt it. Those quiet looks, the way his attention lingered when he thought no one noticed. The untouchable man had been carrying something dangerous and hidden for 10 years. I studied him for a moment, then shrugged like I was weighing a decision at the grocery store. We'll see, I said. Depends on what you do next. From that day on, Aiden stayed. A man raised in comfort in glass towers and private clubs. Now living in a simple cabin, eating basic meals, helping in a school that barely had enough supplies. He worked, he learned, he stayed quiet when I needed quiet. And slowly, life became something gentle. 3 months later, my phone rang from an unknown number. Liam. His voice was weak, trembling with effort. Alara, he whispered. I don't have much time. Maybe this is what I deserve. When I'm gone, will you come to the funeral? No, I said plain and steady. Mr. Stone, I added, I don't remember who you are. Our marriage doesn't matter to me anymore. If you die, I won't be there. On the other end, he sobbed. I regret it. He choked. I regret everything. I can't close my eyes. I didn't answer. I ended the call. 3 days later, a lawyer called. Liam had died. He'd left everything to me. I felt nothing. The lawyer hesitated, then said his last wish was that you attend and help carry the casket. I don't have time, I said calmly. Find someone else. I hung up. Outside, sunlight poured over the schoolyard like gold. Aiden walked toward me, holding a bouquet of wildflowers he'd picked from somewhere on the mountain. He smiled like he didn't need to be anyone's hero. Pretty? He asked. I took the flowers and looked at them for a moment. Then I smiled. Small real? Yeah, I said. They're beautiful. And for the first time, I believed the words I said to him.